This would normally be big news, but I have to tread carefully here. I'm not sure what's going on, especially when it's all over the mainstream. And when it's all over the mainstream, you know there is something that stinks like a dead rat. These two people here, speaking of dead rats, this is Brett Sutton, the Victorian health officer that supposedly is giving Denial Andrews or Dictator Dan or Chairman Dan. This guy is giving Andrews, how do I put it? He's virtually telling him what to do regards the population of Victoria. This guy, whatever he says, goes. And that's how it's been since day one. Andrews keeps coming out saying, yeah, I listen to what the medical health officer is telling me and the data. It's got nothing to do with Daniel Andrews. Nothing. He's just going by the science and the medical health officer. Okay? The guy's name is Brett Sutton, as you see. This other guy here, I've said a few times, I believe is the most horrific media person in Melbourne. He's on a radio station, 3AW, who are fully complicit in lies. They are working for the government big time. I can give you so many examples, Burke Street being the big one. But this guy is despicable, vile, words fail me. Neil Mitchell, his name is. He's on the morning show on 3AW. The guy, like I say, the worst media whore going around in Melbourne, not only Melbourne, probably Australia. So the story goes, Brett Sutton says he did not recommend Melbourne curfew. As you know, Melbourne stage 4, we're in a curfew. We're not allowed out of our homes from 8 p.m. till 5 a.m. in the morning because, the virus knows. The virus flies around with a watch and it knows when it gets to 8 p.m. it goes outside. So we'd better not go outside to catch this virus. And that's been changed to 9 p.m. because of daylight saving time coming soon. So Daniel Andrews is facing calls to end the Melbourne's curfew after he was thrown under the bus by his chief health officer in a shock interview. See what I mean? I don't believe a word of this. There's something more to it. There's no way knowing this jerk is going to throw Andrews under the bus. Is this a way of somehow moving Andrews on and keeping people happy and replacing him by someone else who's going to do exactly the same thing? I don't know. But there's no way knowing that this guy would throw Andrews under the bus because they're both working together for their masters, working on the same script. So let's just play this 48-second shit.
Every day, and it must become a bit wearing at times, but has the government ever introduced something without your advice or against your advice?
No, not against my advice. The curfew came in as part of the state of disaster, for example. It wasn't a state of emergency requirement. So that was something that was introduced, but it wasn't something that I was against from a public health perspective.
But were you consulted on it or not?
Yeah, I was consulted on it, but it was a separate decision-making pathway.
Would you have introduced it?
In public health directions? I'm not sure. I haven't reflected on it. I think it has been useful.
Not sure why it stopped 9 seconds early. Anyway. Yeah, he's not sure. Yeah, not sure my ass. So, you got to question why this jerk is interviewing him. It's all a setup. Let's keep going. So he knows nothing about the curfew. He gave no directions to Andrews regards the curfew, which one of the, it doesn't bother me much, but would bother a lot of other people. So one of the big points for the stage 4 has not come from this health officer dickhead. Victorian Premier Daniel Andrews is facing calls to end the state's nighttime curfew immediately after it was revealed that the unprecedented restriction was not based on medical advice. Chief Health Officer Brett Sutton dramatically threw Mr. Andrews under the bus making the explosive claim with this idiot here. Mitchell teed up Professor Sutton by asking if the Victorian government had ever introduced something without your advice or against your advice. So let's just skip what he just said. At his daily press conference on Tuesday, Mr. Andrews admitted that the curfew makes the job of the Victoria Police much easier. What sort of shit is that? The curfew makes the job of the Victoria Police much easier. So lock everyone inside for what, 9 hours, and it's going to make the police job easier? He was grilled again on Wednesday, asked whose idea the curfew was. This is Andrews. I can't pinpoint the individual and the day. So he doesn't even know the individual or the day that came about. I can't give you a specific person, he said again, noting it makes the job of police much easier. So he doesn't know who told him to do the curfew, because we know it's not Brett Sutton. But his only concern is it makes the job of police much easier. The job of what? Going out and fining people, arresting people? So, all right, we'll lock people inside so we don't have the cops going out patrolling streets and fining people and arresting them. What sort of shit is that? He added, if you want to go out and be unlawful now, police have got the easiest set of arrangements they have ever had to catch you and fine you. That's what a curfew delivers. What the fuck? Hundreds of Victorians have been fined for curfew breaches since last month. So they're still out there doing their job, booking people for curfew. So how does it make any difference having a curfew or not? Is it all about the Victoria Police and how they book people? Then under here we've got related huge setback for Australia's vaccine hopes. We've covered that shit. So, Victoria's state of emergency was declared on March 16 under the Public Health and Wellbeing Act of 2008, with Professor Sutton in his role as the top health official effectively calling the shots. Should Melbourne's strict nightly curfew be abandoned? Yes. Cast your vote. 38% of people want to keep the curfew. I mean, come on, fucking. Are people that stupid? 22,000 votes. I don't know. I don't know if you could take anything on this, but anyway, at least it's got the numbers on the yes side. In the interview on Tuesday, Mitchell asked whether Professor Sutton was consulted on the 8 p.m. curfew. We've heard all that. Asked whether the government had acted without his advice on anything else, Professor Sutton said no. So what he's saying, that everything that Sutton says goes. Everything. Except this curfew, obviously. So this suggestion of tensions between you and the Premier, is that incorrect? Sutton said, it is incorrect. They're making out there's a tension between them. Yeah, fucking bullshit. I'm just going to read out some tweets here. Confused by the Andrews presser on Victoria's curfew. He says he's led by health advice, but Chief Health Officer said curfew wasn't his idea. So whose was it? Andrews was asked and wouldn't explicitly say, like he avoids every other question in his presses. Extraordinary revelations by Brett Sutton in his interview with Neil Mitchell. The police state curfew that locks people inside their homes from 8 p.m. is not based on medical advice. It's an arbitrary decision made by that megalomaniac Daniel Andrews. That's Tim Smith MP. Daniel Andrews needs to answer this. The imposition of a curfew is an enormous erosion of freedom and has never been imposed before in Victoria. Why does it remain in place today if it wasn't the recommendation of the Victorian Chief Health Officer? What a shambles. So the only person who wanted, recommended, demanded a curfew was Daniel Andrews. There was zero science behind it. What motivation does this maniac have to lock 5.2 million people down with no evidence? That's the Matthew Guy, I think, he's the opposition leader. But they're all in it together, so it doesn't matter. Melbourne's curfew has zero science or data behind it. Daniel Andrews said this today, that it makes the job of the Victoria Police much easier. What the fuck? It's all about making the job of the Victoria Police easier, even though 6 million people are going to be locked inside. Really? No data, supercomputer or any modelling to explain why Victorians are given a bedtime of 8 p.m. This is the best one. This is the best one. I thought this guy was alright. If you don't know who Andrew Bogut is, he is an Australian, played NBA basketball for I don't know how many years, but he's back in Australia the last year or two. I stand with Dan. You should too. In your house, by yourself, for 6+ months. Roadmap. Greater good. Community. Curfew. We can do it. Homeschool. Trust us. Trust the gov. Your well-being. We know best. Andrew Bogut. Andrew fucking idiot. It should be more like Bogan. Yeah. You want to be inside for 6+ months, do you? Oh, because you got no friends? Obviously. The casual revelation sparked outrage from Liberals. Federal Liberal MP Tim Wilson told Sky News on Wednesday the curfew should be lifted immediately. It's quite clear that it's not informed by health advice, just like everything else isn't. I think the only measures that should be in place are those that are necessary to protect public health, and it's clear that this isn't the case. This is a political decision and a resource management decision. We're not here to be slaves of the state. We are free people, and I don't think it's justified. I don't want to go on. These Liberal MPs, they're all in it together, just making out that they really care. On Tuesday, Victoria's opposition leader, Michael O'Brien, reacted angrily. Yeah, go on, let's get in the script. So if the Chief Health Officer didn't recommend a curfew, why the hell did Andrews impose it? I'll tell you why. Because the job's done. He needed all these Chinese planes to fly in. Close the, freeway to the airport. Close any access to the airport. Close anyone wanting to go to the airport after 8 p.m. and before 5 a.m. Amazingly, the planes came in at that time. Guaranteed. Then who knows what 5G shit they're doing at night. That's what it's about. So they'll probably take it off now because the job's done. The job's done. And this is some bullshit way to get out of it. Daniel Andrews needs to answer this. The imposition of a curfew is an enormous erosion of freedom. We've seen that shit. Anyway, there it is. I'd tread warily on this, very warily, especially when this creep's involved, and this creep. There's no way known he's put Andrews under the bus. They probably sleep together.